Hi everyone, welcome to today's tutorial on setting group permissions in Nexus 360 and adding and configuring user accounts. I'm going to log in as an administrator. And when we first log in, we'll see these dashboards appear, which are covered by another tutorial teaching you how to set these up and configure them per individual user accounts. But the topic of today's tutorial is explaining the group permissions and adding new users. So to do this, we go to the Admin Tools section, and what you'll find here are the user accounts, user-defined groups, and system group menus. First, we're going to have a look at the system groups. These are groups that are defined within Nexus 360 software itself and cannot be changed, cannot be deleted, because there are other rules and other permissions within Nexus 360 controlling access rights for various users. Hence, you cannot delete them, otherwise you'll affect those permissions. So the first one, which is fairly simple to understand, is lab managers. So there must be at least one individual within your laboratory that has full access rights and can reset user accounts, can view all the studies and so forth, and that person will belong to the lab managers group. There's also a lab physicians group and a referring physicians group, and each of those has various access or permissions related to various studies. And if we have a look at the lab managers group, if we go into the pencil icon on the far left hand side, this is where you can see the permissions that are available for this particular group. And this is modifiable, so if you set it initially and you want to change it later, you can do that simply by ticking or unticking the box and selecting update here in the top right hand corner. As you can see here, as we would expect, the lab managers group has all functions enabled except for, by default, re-editing a report that's already been signed by a physician. We go back to the System Groups menu. What we can also see is if we look at the icon with the picture of the people there and select that, we can see what particular users have been given access to this group. We have a look at the lab physicians group and we look at the settings or permissions that they have. They will have reduced functionality. For example, they're not deleting appointments or deleting studies in this case. And if we have a look at who is accessed here for this demo system, here we have 5 lab physicians that have access to Nexus 360 under this demo account. Once again, if we look at the referring physicians group and we look at the permissions that have been set for those. So here it's even less functionality on the basis that the referring physicians may want to have access to Nexus 360, but very restricted in what they can do within the software and what they can see. And if, once again, we go and have a look at what users have access in this particular example, we just have 2 referring physicians accessing Nexus 360 at the moment. Then we can have a look at user-defined groups. This is where you can go in as a lab manager and set up user-defined groups that make sense to the workflow in your particular laboratory. So in this case, I have lab secretaries, recording technicians, scoring technicians, and if we were to go into the pencil icon looking at the permissions for these groups, they change depending on the functionality of that assigned group. To then add a user, we go to Admin Tools, User Accounts, and here we have a number of users. I'm just going to filter them so that we only see those who are currently active. Here we have a number of fictitious users on this demo account. To add a new user, go over to the top right hand corner to the Add User button, and this is where we enter the username, and this is just a fictitious username that we're entering at the moment. And we're going to put my email account so that we can have a test email before setting up this user. You can put a mobile phone in there if you like. The mandatory fields are indicated by the asterisks. And I'm going to add this new user to the recording technicians group. When we select Create, the system will automatically generate an email that is going to that new user. And this is what the email will look like. So only the user will receive this. The user then goes into the Set Password option. It will bring up a one-time login screen. The user then sets a password, and it will take them to the Nexus 360 login screen. If we go into an existing user, so we might have Ivana Trial here, and as a lab administrator, I do have the ability to go into the user account settings for Ivana. Once again, it has my email address for the purpose of the demo, and Ivana has been appointed to the Lab Secretaries group. Here, I can just select Reset User's Password as a lab administrator. This will give me a warning saying that resetting the password will send an email to that user. So I'll select Reset Password again on the right hand side. And the lab manager will receive this message saying that the password has been successfully reset. The user themselves will then go into the email account and receive an email saying that their Nexus 360 password has been reset and that they need to go in to this particular page, which is a one-time login page. Type in the username. Select Set Password, and once again it will take them to the Nexus 360 login page so they can log in with their new password. One other thing that I would also like to go through just briefly is in the Admin Tools section. Now that we have set up the groups and assigned users to those groups, we then have the default study access rules. If we go into default study access rules, this is for the lab manager. In here, we can see that we've set up rules for Nexus 360 to determine what groups can see what particular sites and services. So if I go into the pencil or edit icon here on the far left-hand side, this is where I can set up the recording technicians group to see various service types, in this case consultation, EEG, and sleep services, at the Compumedics site only. Thank you for your time. We hope you've enjoyed this information.